There is a level of discipline that looks like madness to the uninitiated. It is a quiet, terrifying consistency that does not bend for tragedy, weather, or fatigue. Most people think they want success, but they are terrified of the person they would have to become to achieve it. This isn't normal. This isn't about trying your best or finding your why. This is about the cold, surgical removal of the part of you that negotiates with comfort. We are talking about the archetype of the unbreakable, the individual whose habits have become so automated they function like a heartbeat. Involuntary, relentless, predictable. While the world sleeps, they are sharpening the blade. While the world complains, they are breathing through the fire. You think you've tried everything, but you are still playing by the rules of a victim. Today, we kill that version of you. This is the initiation into a way of life that leaves no room for the weak. But be warned, this isn't for everyone. Raphael wakes up on a Monday morning. The air is cold, and the alarm is a scream he isn't ready to answer. He hits snooze. Just 10 minutes. He tells himself he needs the rest to be productive later. On Tuesday, he misses the gym because a meeting ran late and his energy felt low. On Wednesday, he starts strong, but by 7 p.m. the screen's glow wins and the book stays closed. Friday arrives, and the cycle completes itself. A week of negotiations, apologies to himself, and the hollow promise that next Monday will be different. This is the rhythm of a ghost. Raphael is haunted by the version of himself he hasn't met yet. He feels the weight of his potential like a physical burden, a debt he can't pay back. He tries harder. He watches the videos. He buys the planners. He screams at himself in the mirror. But the next morning, the same hand reaches for the same snooze button. The same voice whispers that it's okay to take it easy, just this once. He looks at his life and sees a series of half-finished bridges leading nowhere. He thinks he lacks willpower. He thinks he is fundamentally flawed, born without the grind gene others seem to possess. He feels exposed, stripped bare by his own inability to keep a promise to the man in the mirror. But Raphael was not weak. He was simply fighting a war against a ghost with a wooden sword. He was fighting something he didn't understand. Centuries ago, in the shadowed mountains of Japan, Miyamoto Musashi did not rely on motivation. He relied on a system of absolute, irreversible commitment. Most people live in a state of reversible commitment. They decide to work out until it hurts. They decide to diet until they are hungry. They leave themselves an exit ramp. Raphael's mistake was thinking that his life was a series of daily choices. It wasn't. His life was a series of open doors that he refused to lock. The secret of the system is the shift from behavior to identity. In the Zen tradition, the bell rings at the same time every morning, not because the monks feel inspired, but because that is what a monk does. There is no debate. There is no internal tribunal. To Musashi, the way was a path of guji, continuous practice without gaps. He understood that a warrior does not decide to be a warrior at the moment the sword is drawn. He is a warrior when he washes his face, when he eats his rice, and when he walks down a dirt path. To transform Raphael into an unbreakable person, we must move the decision from the private mind to the public reality. We must make the commitment irreversible. In ancient systems, this was the ritual of the public declaration. When you tell yourself you will change, it is a secret you can easily bury. When you are witnessed by others, by your peers, your mentors, or a system that demands blood, the cost of failure becomes higher than the cost of the work. You are no longer trying to be consistent. You are being watched. This is the psychological architecture of the fortress. The samurai didn't wake up and ask, "How do I feel today?" That question was murdered the day they took their vows. They don't decide. They have already decided. Centuries of tradition tell us that the only way to bypass the weakness of the human brain is to automate the identity. You create a ritual so heavy, and a declaration so loud that the ego is too terrified to back down. You stop treating your discipline like a suggestion and start treating it like a law of physics. Gravity doesn't take a day off because it's tired. Neither does the man who is identified with the blade. The system is not there to guide you. It is there to cage the animal of your laziness so the human of your intent can finally lead. The system is set, but the biology is screaming. Raphael sits at his desk at 5 a.m. and the war begins. This isn't a grand battle on a field of glory. It is a pathetic, sniveling negotiation inside the skull. His brain, an organ designed for survival and calorie conservation, begins to calculate the friction. It tells him he is burning too much fuel. It tells him that his muscles are tight, his eyes are heavy, and that the world won't end if he closes them for just 60 seconds. This is the internal friction of identity transformation. Your brain is a heat-seeking missile for comfort, and you're trying to rewire it to seek the cold. The resistance is visceral. It feels like a physical weight on the chest, a thick fog in the mind that makes the simplest task. Opening a book, lifting a weight, writing a line of code, feel like moving a mountain. Raphael feels the bile of his old self rising. The old Raphael wants to negotiate. He wants to trade an hour of work now for 2 hours later. He wants to bargain with the clock. But in the system of the samurai, there is no such thing as later. There is only the fixed, non-negotiable time. You must view your willpower not as an infinite resource, but as a fuel tank that is leaking from the moment you wake up. Every time you negotiate, you lose fuel. Every time you ask, should I, you create friction. The goal of the internal war is not to win the argument. It is to stop the argument from happening. Raphael learns to recognize the voice of his biology as a separate entity. It is a dying animal thumping against the cage. He feels the resistance, the heat in his face, the itch to check his phone, and he does nothing. He sits in the fire. He realizes that the discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is the sound of the old identity being incinerated. He finishes the session. He is exhausted, frustrated, and still feels the pull of the couch. This isn't a total victory. He hasn't found flow yet. He has simply refused to retreat. He has won a skirmish, but the war is far from over. The world will tell you that you need balance. The world will tell you that there are many paths to the top of the mountain and that you should find the one that fits your lifestyle. This is a lie designed to keep you mediocre. For Raphael to become the version of himself that is feared by his competition, he must accept the one way. He must destroy the illusion of variety. Variety is the playground of the procrastinator. When you have 10 different ways to train, you spend your energy choosing instead of doing. The system of Musashi is dogmatic. It is uncomfortable. It is a rigid, narrow corridor with no side exits. You do not ask, "What should I do today?" That question is a toxin. The answer was decided months ago. You wake up, you train, you eat, you work, you repeat. If it feels repetitive, good. If it feels boring, perfect. If it feels like a cage, you are finally getting somewhere. The one way requires you to become a person of routine so intense that it borders on the religious. Then comes the social pressure. When Raphael begins to follow the one way, his friends will not cheer. They will worry. They will ask why he doesn't come out anymore. They will mock his obsession. They will call him no fun or tell him he's burnt out. This is the test. Most people break here because they want to be disciplined, but they also want to be liked. You cannot have both. You must accept that being perceived as annoying or robotic is not a bug in the system. It is a feature. It is the sign that you have separated from the herd. The one way simplifies the universe. There is no should I or could I. There is only the protocol. You become a rule book in human form. You do not negotiate with your friends any more than you negotiate with your alarm clock. If the protocol says you work at 9 p.m., you work at 9 p.m., even if the world is ending. By eliminating choice, you eliminate the possibility of failure. You become a machine of pure execution. People will think you are cold. They will think you have lost your mind. Let them. They are watching from the sidelines of a life they are too afraid to live. In the Dokodo, Musashi wrote, "Step by step walk the 1,000-mile road." This is the principle of Guji, the practice without gaps. Raphael's old life was a series of jagged peaks and deep valleys. He would sprint for 3 days and then collapse for 4. He lived in the all-or-nothing trap, believing that if he couldn't spend 4 hours in the gym, the 20 minutes he had were worthless. This is the logic of the defeated. The system demands a different geometry. Think of your discipline as a river. A river does not stop because it hits a rock. It flows around it. It does not wait for the perfect season to move. It is always moving. The moment the water stops, it becomes a stagnant pond, a breeding ground for rot. In the life of the unbreakable, there is no off switch. There is only the rhythm. Rest is not a retreat. It is a tactical recovery. To a samurai, sharpening the blade is part of the battle. Sleeping is part of the training. Eating is fuel for the war. When Raphael views his entire existence through this lens, the concept of a break disappears. You do not take a break from being a professional. You do not take a break from your identity. If you are a person of frightening consistency, you are consistent even in how you recover. The danger lies in the gap. The single day missed, the single meal cheated, the single lie told to the self. The gap is where the infection of mediocrity begins. It starts small, a tiny crack in the dam, but the pressure of your old habits will eventually tear the whole structure down. You must close the gaps. If you are traveling, you train in the hotel room. If you are sick, you study from the bed. You maintain the current at all costs. The intensity may fluctuate, but the movement never ceases. The moment it stops, it dies. The collapse of discipline usually happens in the face of the unexpected. Raphael's old self was a victim of circumstance. If his car broke down, his diet ended. If his boss yelled at him, his evening study session was replaced by a bottle of beer. He was making decisions under stress, and the neuroscience of decision fatigue proves that when the brain is tired, it chooses the path of least resistance every single time. Your prefrontal cortex, the seat of your willpower, is a finite battery. By 6 p.m., that battery is drained. If you have to decide to be disciplined in that moment, you have already lost. The elite system of the samurai doesn't leave behavior to chance. It utilizes pre-solutions. This is the military logic of if-then programming. You move the decision-making from the heat of the moment to the calm of the morning. You anticipate the obstacle before it exists. You build a mental monastery where the rules are absolute. When I'm tired, I do the first 5 minutes of the task regardless. When someone offers me a distraction, the answer is an automatic no without explanation. When the gym is closed, I perform the bodyweight protocol at home. There is no discussion. The answer already exists. Think of a monastery. The monks do not debate whether to pray when it rains. The bell rings, and they move. They have pre-solved the problem of the weather. Raphael must now map out his own failure points. He identifies the stress triggers that used to break him and assigns them a pre-calculated response. This removes the cognitive load. By the time the obstacle arrives, the execution is already a reflex. Neuroscientifically, you are moving the behavior from the fragile prefrontal cortex to the basal ganglia, the part of the brain responsible for habit and pattern recognition. This is where automated ruthlessness lives. You are no longer trying to stay on track. You are executing a script. When the world throws a wrench into your gears, the machine doesn't grind to a halt. It simply switches to a secondary drive. You become an algorithm of output. While others are paralyzed by the stress of a changing environment, wondering what they should do now that their plans have changed, you're already halfway through your contingency plan. You don't need to be strong in the moment because you were smart in the silence. The battle is won before it is fought because the if has already been answered by the then. The man who started this journey no longer exists. Raphael looks in the mirror and doesn't see a seeker or a dreamer. He sees a high-precision instrument. The softness in his eyes has been replaced by a predatory calm. He has crossed the threshold where discipline stops being a burden and starts being a skeleton, the rigid structure that holds him upright while everyone else collapses into a heap of excuses. This is the mythic rebirth. You have burned away the part of yourself that required motivation. You have successfully rewired your nervous system to find the lack of work more painful than the work itself. Now, the discomfort of others becomes your ultimate signal of success. When people look at your life and find it too intense or extreme, you realize you have finally achieved separation. Their pity is your fuel. Their confusion is your confirmation. You are no longer playing the same game. The transformation is final. You don't do the work anymore. You are the work. Like Musashi, you have realized that the way is in everything. Your walk is different. Your silence is heavier. You have achieved a state of frightening consistency because you have murdered the version of you that was allowed to fail. You are an unbreakable person, not because you never felt like quitting, but because you killed the part of you that had the authority to make that choice. Now, the initiation is complete. But a system without a witness is just a dream. It is time to make your identity irreversible. Leave a comment below with your public declaration. State your one way and the ritual you will never break. Let the world see it. Let the weight of their eyes keep you honest. He doesn't struggle to be disciplined anymore. He is it.